Hi there, I'm Roger Mittag. I'm the founder of Prud'homme Beer Certification and the president of Thirst for Knowledge. And welcome to the Style Sessions. And before we start this, I should explain a few things. One, we did some style sessions about 3 or 4 years ago. And we did them on YouTube Live, so there was a lot of discussion going back and forth. And I decided that it was time for us to revisit it and to take a look at beer styles again. And this time it's going to be just a discussion between me and you. And I hope you enjoy it and I hope you stick around. We're going to do probably 20 or 30 different traditional beer styles. We're not going to venture into the new ones, but we should take a look at why beer styles are important. Now, if you were analyzing wine is a little easier to understand because it's based on terroir and varietals. So the type of grape and the growing conditions have a huge impact on how wine actually tastes. And it's much more straightforward to understand wine varieties than it is beer styles. And the reason that beer styles are so challenging to understand is because they're relatively new. And if we look at beer over the centuries, so if we even go back 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, we couldn't consider that a beer style. In fact, the term beer styles didn't really arrive into the general discussion points probably until the 1900s. So people were making beer throughout the centuries based on the ingredients that they had, what was available to them, and what was popular at that time. And so we're going to take a look at some of the history of beer as we're talking about different beer styles. But the biggest problem with understanding beer styles is that even though we have guidelines, and guidelines have been developed by judging certification programs, and they are there to help home brewers and brewers at large to understand whether or not they fit within a style category. But the issue is that every brewer has a slightly different interpretation of what that style is. So to understand the style and the way that we're going to discuss it is going to be in broad strokes. It's going to be in a lot of generalities. It's not going to be specifics because brewers interpret every style differently. The other thing that we have to take into consideration is that ingredients have a large play on how a beer smells, tastes, and is consumed. Malt is not the same throughout the world. The characteristics of barley are different in Europe than they are in North America. Hops are primarily terroir related, so they are very much consistent in the area in which they're grown in and the variety. So we can count on the consistency of hops. Water is different again. You know, we talk about minerality of water, and we will discuss water as part of the style discussions as well. And now we're starting to see a lot of different varieties of yeast being used. And so yeast will once again contribute different aromatics and flavors to beer styles. So it isn't as simple as just saying this beer style is this. What we're going to do over the next 20 weeks or so is to discuss what we look at as traditional beer styles and give you some idea of what a true to style beer would look like. So I'm going to feature very specific brands and we're going to talk about the different styles. And a lot of the style information that we have over the centuries is about storytelling. So there is going to be some challenges in understanding whether or not the stories that I'm telling are the stories that you've heard. So bear with me. We're going to have some fun. We're going to really explore a lot of really cool different styles. We're going to talk about glassware, how to pour it into the proper glass, and what the difference between evaluating a beer in a sampling glass or just drinking a beer for pleasure, how that's different, because you're not going to get some of the same aromatics if you're drinking it at 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, which is what we typically have beer at. So this should be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to progress through the weeks based on history. So our first session, I am going to feature a beer that's relatively new in the global history of beer, but to me it's the most important discovery or creation of a beer style in the world, and that is the Pilsner. So in our first show, we're going to talk about Pilsners, and then we're going to move back in time and history and start progressing through what beer styles are and how they came on to the earth or how they came into fashion. And then we're going to slowly move through a lot of different brewing countries. We are going to focus a lot on Europe. We will then go to England, and then we're going to come over to North America when we're discussing North American pale ales and IPAs and specific styles that are created for this country or this side of the continent, if you will. So please join me. If you want to learn more about Prud'homme beer certification, you can explore our website at tfkbeer.com. And if you want to reach out, you can contact me directly at rmittag@thirstforknowledge.ca, or you can give me a text at 289-314-5852. Thanks very much. I hope you enjoy it.